Good morning. It is good to see y'all this morning. Before we begin, let's go to God in prayer. Dear Father in heaven, thank you so much for this wonderful day that you've given to us. Dear Father, I pray this morning as we open up your word and look at your letter from Paul and that you inspired him to write to Titus, I pray that you'll open up our hearts so that we can see how this message applies to us. And I pray that as we look at it, we'll use it in our lives to live more faithfully for you. I continue to pray for your church here at Summertown and the people who make up the church. I pray that you will give us a stronger desire each and every day to love you more, to live for you more, to let your light shine through us, not just inside this building, but everywhere we go. We are so thankful for your Son and our Savior, Jesus Christ, and the example that he set for us. Help us to continue to study that example, to see how he had that relationship with you while he was on this earth, so that we can strive to live just like he lived and have that same type of relationship. Help us today to spend time together, trying to build each other up, being an encouragement to each other. Help us to show our love for each other more and more. Help us in all that we do to bring glory and honor to you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, we're continuing our study of Titus in Titus chapter 2. We will look one more time at verses 3 through 5, because I've got a question at the end of it. They are to teach, which is the older women. They are to teach what is good, and so train the younger woman to love their husbands and children, to be self-controlled, pure, working at home, kind, and submissive to their husbands, that the word of God may not be reviled. The question I have this morning, because we talked a little bit about this passage, and we talked about that, you know, they're to love their husbands and children. They're supposed to be working at home. They're supposed to be submissive to their husband. But for a minute, I want us to look and think not just at the women, but also at the men, but really at the family. If you could look and not worry about where the world was, what do you really think the perfect home should look like? What do you think that would mean? I figured there'd be a few of you say, it looked like my family.
I'd like to say that.
Wouldn't we? Wouldn't we like to say that? Oh, I would love to say that. They make you feel like the commercials on TV, hey, look at this perfect family. Everybody's smiling as they're holding hands, walking through the field of flowers. And yeah, that's a perfect family, isn't it? Have you really, let's just talk about the husbands. What do you think that if you thought about the husband father, what do you think that means? How often do you think he should be at home? How often do you think that he should be out working? How often do you think he should be investing in his family? What do you think? Every day, all the time. And the thing is trying to find that balance of really, because part of that is being out of the home to have a job. That's how God made it. God made people to work. That's what we are supposed to do. All the way back from the beginning, Adam worked in the garden. There has to be a balance, though, between providing for your family, but also investing in your family. As a husband, as a father, what about the wife? What would be, when you're thinking about family, what would be ideal? And keep in mind, we're talking about God's perfect plan here. You know, I honestly think that's how God designed it. Now understand, we don't live in that world. The world around us affects the things that we're doing. But does that go back all the way to Proverbs 31? even though the wife was at home, the mother was at home, was she not constantly working? Did she go out in the community to sell the things that she had made? So she was still working, and I think we're talking about the virtuous woman. This is kind of a passage inspired by God talking about this woman that everybody should be looking up to. But I think if you take the husband or the father and the mother, I think God did design it for the mother to have more interaction with the kids as they are being raised. Does that take the responsibility away from the father? Not even close. I don't even want you to get that message here. I think it's hugely, overly responsible for the father to invest in his children and spend quality time. Statistics will show if a mother alone brings her kids to church, the odds of them being at church as they grow up are really low. It goes up a significant amount if it's just the father that brings them to church. As they get older, they will stay in church. But the biggest, the highest amount, obviously, is when both parents are spiritual influences on their kids and they bring them to church. I'm telling you, the father, you are overly important in raising your kids to be the people God wants them to be. So let me make sure I'm correct here. Do y'all feel like I've said anything that was wrong? According to God's plan. I'm not saying what the world says, and I'm sure not saying that women can't work out there. I'm not going down that path. I don't want you to think I'm going down that path. I'm really asking and trying to get you to think a little bit, what do you think God designed it to look like? So questions, comments, anything that you agree with, disagree with? Everybody's too afraid to talk. I get it.
Well, you know, if you look back, 50, 60 years ago, maybe even 70 years ago, women didn't work like that. I know my mother never worked. She raised kids. Dad worked.
Okay, so let's change that just a little bit, because as my wife stayed home with the kids, I would have never swapped with her, not at all. She worked so much harder than I did. But I agree with what you're saying. Outside of the house, there were a lot of times that the men made the living so the wife could stay at home. But I think about my grandmother and all the countless hours she would spend out on the farm doing things. And even though it was at home, there was still a lot of work that happened. Even these moms that stay at home. You think about back how many times that they made the clothes for everybody, that they cooked the meals, that there was a significant amount of work that took place that saved the family. So yes, I don't know what you mean, but yes, I don't ever want it to be the impression that women did not work just because I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Yes. Would y'all agree with that? That we are so overly committed in all different directions that we've lost sight of what God intended the family to be?
That's one of the pluses of the COVID pandemic, that having everyone stay home. People have realized that a lot of people are realizing they can get by on their one income when there is a person at home. And, you know, you don't have to have the work clothes, the 2 cars, the Starbucks every day, and the lunch hours and the hot spot, and you can. A lot of people, I think, are realizing that.
How many of y'all during COVID felt like this is the way life should be? When you didn't get pulled at so many different directions. Now, some of us were also sitting there going, I can't wait to get out of this house. I get that. But during that way, I remember so many conversations that I had with people about, I wish as we open back up, that we'll stay committed to slowing down so we can eat at home together, that we can sit and have conversations and really feel like they're quality conversations with our spouse, with our kids. And then look at us. What have we done? At least, well, as she said, we. Yes. Yes. So much of it is. I mean, there's all the things we feel like we need. Yes, ma'am. Hmm. They did. I mean, because they work like. Do what? There was always something to do. I mean, you hear about the stories of growing up and planting the garden and always working until the sun went down in the evening, and they had that work ethic all the time. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. You know, and I don't know why. I take it back because Miss Deborah said it right. We're so exhausted by the time we walk in the house, we want something that is mind-numbing. And what is that? Either my device or it's the TV. I can watch something and not have to be invested in it at all. It's just, yeah, if it's funny, hey, that's great. If it's a sports, hey, all right, good job. But I'm not really having to invest anything. I can just be completely out of it and still be able to watch something. So,
Tom Holland wrote a lot of books. A lot of his books were real humorous.
mm-hmm.
There's one about the pranks people play that is just so funny because it was all this downtime. There wasn't the screen stuff, the TV, the devices.
Yeah.
And they just had fun
Yeah.
at their own imagination.
You know, when I went to Guyana, South America, it was so amazing that they had nothing. I mean, you're talking about wooden shacks that they lived in. They struggled to have food, but you know, they were some of the happiest people. They loved just being around each other, and they had time to do it. And it was kind of that thing that kind of helped me to get my life back in order again, because it was like, why am I so consumed thinking I need to be there and I've got to be there? And I guess there's another side that's probably a little frustrating because time really doesn't make a whole lot of difference to them. You know, it's like, hey, I'll be there at 2 o'clock, and yeah, they'll show up at 3:30 because hey, they stopped to talk to so and so along the way. They had this other thing that happened and they had forgotten about. But the thing is they took care of each other. They helped each other. We get so consumed with our busy schedule that we have to know time is of the essence. I got to know at this time I do this, and at this time I do this, and this, and we just wear ourselves out. And we sure don't have time to check on anybody because, hey, I got this other thing. I'm obligated. I've got to do this, and I know you're hurting, but hey, too bad. I think we miss it. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Well, the thing is it goes back to the intentions that Christians have. All these things that I know spiritually I should be doing, I intend to do. I've got great intentions. But I never, tomorrow's always available. Tomorrow I'll be able to. Tomorrow I'll get back on track. It's kind of like that diet that I'm supposed, tomorrow, hey, as soon as we get through this, I'll get to, we never get there. The things that we intend to do and we know we should do, and we think, hey, next week should be slower. I'll be able to go visit so-and-so. Hey, you know what? I'll call and check on so-and-so. Hey, you know what I can do? I can go up to the church building. We can help out with this. Well, I intend to do these things, but they don't always happen. Do what? Life hits you in the face. It does. And the thing is I think we all need to take a step back and truly say, how do I get life to where I want it to be for me and my family? And I don't have I can't sit down and plan that out for you. And I don't want you to think that it's going to fully change tomorrow. But what could you take off of your list? Work, gladly. But what could you take off of your list and replace with something either family specific or spiritual specific? My thing that I justify way too many times is, yes, but the things I do, maybe I'll have a spiritual influence on somebody. Maybe I'll be able to make a difference. Maybe I'll be able to, but do I? Do I really? Thing is, I've got to really start thinking about things that I can take off my list to make sure I'm putting in place.
If you're thinking, I have almost neighbors, and there's so many times that I've passed them, and I think about how much better their life might be than mine. You know, they have multiple children. I would like to have more children, but, you know, in this day and time, the number of children we have has really gone down because you feel like you can't fit them in. You can't fit in all their activities. You can't pay for everything they're going to need later down the road. He keeps having that big family to enjoy. And they have, you know, 11 kids, and they're happy. I mean,
Yeah.
their life is hard, like our great grandparents. Well, my mom's family, my mom's life was hard when she was a kid. But I just think maybe, do they have it right, you know? Are they doing it more God's way?
Yeah.
That, you know, and you hate to have, you know, not regret, but be afraid that what you're doing is not right.
Yeah.
Just because somebody's doing it different. But I look at them because I have the opportunity so often to think about that and think about, like you say, how do you go from where we let ourselves get back to that? And I think Deborah's idea of taking, you know, she doesn't have to take away the TV, but wouldn't that be the greatest thing ever?
Yeah.
And I'm the world's worst, but I've been to it long enough that my growing children, for how much time I spent on the television when they were little because of what y'all said. You're exhausted when you get home. I talked to everything I had. When I got home, I didn't even think about it. Like you said, you're non-responsive at that point.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, no, that's good.
some of the things that I was thinking of, I was talking about.
Yeah. Well, but it takes so much effort and energy with a family. It'd be different if when Laura and I got home, we said, hey, Emma, Kate, Lindley, Jacob, y'all come on, let's play a game. And they just come running with smiles. That doesn't happen. Oh, do we had to play a game? Oh, I don't like that game. Well, I don't like that game. You know, it's just not always easy. Yeah, I forgot Emma Kate's in here. She would never do that. No, just kidding. Having kids. But, you know, and same thing with a husband and wife, you know. Hey, you want to go for a walk? I don't want to go for a walk. Hey, let's go out to eat over here. I don't want to go out to eat tonight. You know, sometimes it's just the effort and energy that goes into it. If everything was just, as soon as you suggested something, okay, let's all go for a walk. You know, it'd be great, but it doesn't always happen that way. And so we think, why do I want to use what little effort and energy I've got left to fight the battle just so we can? And it's just hard. It just is. But, again, don't keep looking at the problem. We all know there's a problem. What's your first step to a solution? You have to be looking for solutions for you and your family.
You know, I often thought about Paul, you know, our son, made several trips to Honduras, mission trips. And he was pretty successful in a lot of stuff they got done over there. One thing that stood out to me more than any other single thing, they don't have the distractions in those foreign countries that we do. The television, all of the internet, all of sports, all the things that we're distracted from today. they'll listen to you over there, and that's the reason so many preachers and people like to go to those foreign countries and do mission work, because they're able to get their attention. It's so hard to get anybody's attention here because their priorities are totally different than what those countries are.
You know, you think about sports had very little influence as far as nationwide years ago. But think about, because maybe it's just a single sport that you like, but how many countless hours have you wasted watching a single sport? I mean, football, basketball, baseball, and I guess I need to be talking to the guys, because some of the women are going, no. You'll be happy then. I love it. But you know, the thing is, and there's TV shows we get that way. We think, I got to watch the next episode. I've got to find out what happens next. And we let meaningless things consume us. Going back to the Amish, how many of y'all panicked when you thought, I like my air conditioning. I need indoor plumbing. You know, I mean, but we get consumed with those minor things instead of thinking about the big picture of what they truly do have. The investment they put into their family, making sure they're all there. I remember all the countless hours that I spent holding a flashlight for my dad. Hey, we're going to work on this. Would you hold the flashlight for me? But you know what? There were so many little conversations that happened in that process. It was that time, and I'm probably guilty of that, because I look at it now, we're so busy, it's like, do I really want Jacob to hold a flashlight? Well, it's really not about holding a flashlight, it's about the little conversations you have along the way and being together, spending some time together. You know, and I think we need to remember some of those things. And what can we do to make sure that we're spending time with our family with all the other things that have to happen along the way? Because I think those things are very important. Other questions or comments? Yes. Yes. Well, you know, when I was in Guyana and it was over 100 degrees, now it wasn't the humidity that we have, but still, every night I went to bed and slept well, and it was fine. You know, it was a little different in the morning when all of a sudden it was like, whoa, that heat just kind of hit you quick. But, you know, still, was it bad? No. I enjoyed the time that I was there in those moments, because there were other things more important than that.
I know we beat ourselves up a little bit here for what we did wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I was at my son's house a couple of weeks ago, and he was explaining to his children the things that we did right. That you don't think that they're really noticing that they did. Mama said, she made us do this, she made us do that. You know, their kids are a little more spoiled. No, I wouldn't say that word. What's the word? Privileged, maybe.
Privileged,
Whatever. And you know what? Every parent wants their child to have a better life than what they had.
Yes.
But it just made me feel good for him to say these things that you made me do, I'll carry these lessons with you.
You know, I think that's a good point, too. Every parent has guilt. Every spouse has guilt. But sometimes we also need to pay attention to what all we've done right. Because when you look at the end result, there's so much that is good. And those are the things I think we need to pay more attention to. Because if not, we just beat ourselves up all the time, and that's not a place to be. We learn from mistakes. And yes, we should have enough guilt to change. But we shouldn't stay in that area to where we just live in the misery. We need to pay attention to the good around us, because we're blessed. We're blessed. So what else? Yes.
I think the biggest thing you can do is to make sure everything is balanced. You want to play with the kids, and they don't want to play, or they want to play and you don't want to play. So you can't spend all your time watching football.
Are you talking to me?
Nor can you spend all your time putting up groceries, canning goods, whatever. You got to do a
Well, and as much as I want my life to stay imbalanced, it's not going to. But the point you're making is so valid. If we don't pay attention to that balance, we never get it back closer to that middle spot, because something's always going to pull, or life is just going to happen. It's going to get me back out of balance again. But how quickly can I get it back to that stability where everybody knows? I also don't want us to miss the point in these passages. Whose responsibility is it to help these young families to stay balanced? Who is Titus supposed to be telling? Who's Paul telling? Who's supposed to be helping these young families? All right, parents. The older people who have already experienced life, which would include parents. But honestly, that's the thing about a church family. You know, I know that there's times that we have a adult class, young adult class, teenage class, kid class, we have a men's class, we have a women's class, and that's all good because there are times to do that. But overall, there's so many times we need to be doing things as a whole, as a church, because we've got to build relationships from the oldest to the youngest. So as they grow, there's connections and there's respect and there's value in each other, to where when you share some of these life lessons of, hey, you know what, I experienced that. And you know what, you're going to make it. Can I give you a couple of suggestions? There's things that work for us. And all of a sudden it has value in that conversation. We need to be helping each other as we raise our families, as we live for God. This should be something that's why God designed the church. And no, it's not ever going to be perfect. But the thing is, the more we invest in each other, the better it's going to be. And that's what I want us to be considering and thinking about. You know, I remember when Lori and I were new to the marriage and having kids, and I remember so many people sharing ideas. And I remember conversations, especially these specific ones, you know, especially while we were at Lomax, different people just saying things to us. You know, some things just didn't apply because, hey, this is how you... Emma Kate was a colicky baby. And it was like, hey, this is what you got to do to solve that. We'd try that and didn't even get close. Try this. It's like, well, we're just miserable parents. But, you know, sometimes there were a lot of things that did apply. Hey, you know what? That was exactly what we needed. Hey, you know what? You need to be taking Lori out more often. And y'all need to be going on dates. You know what? That's exactly what I needed, because I need to slow down to be able to spend time with her. Hey, you know what? As you raise your kids, you know, you need to be reading the Bible to them, having a Bible story before they go to bed at night. You know what? That's exactly what we need to be doing. But the thing is, it was those ideas and those suggestions that helped us to keep putting the right things in front of us. So as you see these younger families, sometimes just make some suggestions and talk to them. Just say, hey, you know, I remember with our kids, this is something that worked. Or it could be, you know what I wish I would have done as I was raising my kids? Because sometimes it's those conversations that just spark that idea and that thing of, you know, you're right, I need to be doing this. And how much better will the church be overall if we begin to do this just as Paul directed Timothy to share with the Lord's church? Questions or comments?
But you know, sometimes, like me, y'all know I'm a grandparent. And Thomas is a teenager and the other two are little. And I have problems that I never had with my girls. Never. So I had a small problem. Went to one of the elders here, told him my problem, asked him to think about it. Well, next time he saw me, made a suggestion. And it works very well for me. But with that being said, see, I could still be struggling with that problem if I hadn't asked for just a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, there's no problem that I have that somebody else ain't already had somewhere.
That's right.
You know, it's just, but you have to ask for it, even if it's a little thing.
And I'm glad you said that, because we struggle asking for help. Why? Because I don't want anybody to know of all my problems. But I got tons of them. Don't you? But for some reason, I don't want anybody to know. We should be asking each other for help, suggestions. Yeah, you know, what you may tell me may not fit at all, but at least I know you cared enough to say. Sometimes we need to humble ourselves enough to realize that everybody else has problems too. And let's let us care about each other enough to ask each other for that help. That's a great suggestion. Anything else?
That's what I was going to say too, is that we have to be open enough to ask. Everywhere we've been, we've adopted family because we've never been anywhere with family, and we've always adopted in family, and it's been our lifeline in a lot of ways. Things that we would not have made it raising babies. We wouldn't have made it raising teenagers or young adults now if we did not have the people that helped us through it. Whether in casual conversation or in us directly going to and asking for help or what they did, or in the people that just tend to offer. There's a couple here, actually, that I won't call them by name because I'm not going to embarrass them, but they're very observant about us as preacher family and raising young adults, and have made comments and suggestions for things in kindness and love that I have treasured in just the short time we've been here. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that people notice too. So, you know, and most of the time things are just said in love. Just take it and see if it works for you or not. Don't be afraid to say it.
And not to be afraid to say it. I also look around and see a lot of wiser people. Let's just leave it like that. Don't want to talk about age. Wiser people. You know, when we had young kids, Pop and Betty Henson at Lomax would just say, nope, let us keep your kids. We're going to keep them tonight, thank you. And that meant everything to us. Because on a lot of times we were doing something with the Lord's church. We were involved with the youth. We helped out. They said, nope, we're just going to keep the kids for you. Y'all would drop them off. But every once in a while it was, no, tonight I want y'all to go out on a date. And that meant everything. So much so it's meant to us that we keep telling ourselves, hey, once our kids get out of the house, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to find some young families and just say, nope, we're going to let us keep your kids tonight. I think we need to be thinking more and more about that sometimes. Because that's a way to connect. Because you know how many countless hours we spent with Pop and Betty every time we stopped back by to pick the kids up? We just sit around and talk to them. And during those times, they shared stories with us of things that happened in their life. And we would laugh and talk about those things. But they were also just wisely giving us suggestions about how to live life as they shared those stories. Find ways that you can help. Find ways that you can invest in other people. And I want to challenge you also to get outside of your own family in doing this. Yes, I think it's important with your kids, take care of grandkids. But outside of that, I want you to think about how to do that with other people. Because it makes a difference. So think about ways to do that. Other questions, comments? Well, it's almost time for the bell, so I won't go into the next verse. But thank you, because I'll be honest, that's kind of a discussion I needed this morning. Just to talk about the family. Talk about how we can help each other and our place in that within the Lord's church. How to kind of get my own family back in line and get balanced. Sometimes I just need to stop and think about that a little bit. And I hope that you'll walk away from class this morning thinking about your own family first, but then also maybe how you can make a difference within the families of the Lord's church. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I guess I won't ever eat at Schaefer's again, but okay, that's all right.
Just don't talk.
Yeah, that preacher said, you know, yeah, thank you. Thank you. I love it. Anything else? All right, thank you.